The neon-soaked starport of New Kepler buzzed with the chaos of 1,000 worlds colliding. Steam hissed from landing pads as freighters settled onto blackened metal, their hulls scarred by cosmic radiation and the wear of endless jumps through hyperspace. Through the maze of cargo containers and bustling crowds, three small figures darted between the legs of towering alien merchants and gruff human traders. Zeph, the eldest at barely 14 standard years, clutched a worn credit chip in his three-fingered hand. His violet skin gleamed with perspiration under the artificial lights, while his younger brothers, Kale and Nix, flanked him like loyal shadows. Their threadbare clothes marked them as outer ring dwellers, forgotten districts where hope came in daily. Rations and dignity was a luxury few could afford. There, Zeph whispered, pointing toward a figure in expensive robes, struggling with an armload of metallic cases. The human's face was weathered but kind, his movements deliberate despite the obvious weight of his burden. He looks like he needs help. The brothers approached cautiously, their large eyes reflecting the starport's pulsing advertisements. The human noticed them first, pausing mid-step as they offered their services in broken galactic standard. "We carry bags, sir. Very careful, very strong." Zeph's accent was thick, but his sincerity unmistakable. A group of Terran merchants nearby erupted in laughter. "Look at the little beggars," one sneered, adjusting his synthetic silk jacket. "Probably planning to run off with your luggage the moment you turn around." His companions nodded, their expressions mixing amusement with disgust. The human studied the boys for a long moment, then slowly handed them his heaviest cases. As they worked, loading the cargo onto a hovercart with practiced efficiency, passersby whispered in a dozen languages. Some alien vendors shook their heads in disapproval, their own children reduced to pack animals for human convenience. Others simply looked away, embarrassed by the spectacle of poverty on display in the gleaming commercial hub. The human watched the boys work with unexpected fascination. They moved like a team, communicating through subtle gestures and shared glances. When Nick struggled with a particularly heavy container, his brothers immediately shifted to help without being asked. No orders were given, no harsh words exchanged, just quiet cooperation, born from necessity and love. "What are your names?" the human asked as they reached his transport pad. The boys exchanged nervous glances before Zeph stepped forward. "I am Zeph. These are my brothers, Kale and Nix." He gestured to each in turn, pride evident despite their circumstances. "We are good workers, sir. Honest workers." The human smiled, the first genuine expression of warmth the boys had seen from any off-worlder in months. He pressed a credit stick into Zeph's palm, then added several individual chips from his personal account. "This is for your work, and this," he placed additional credits in each smaller palm, "is because you remind me of something important." Without another word, he boarded his shuttle, leaving three stunned children staring at more money than they'd seen in weeks. Their mother, Liana, was scrubbing industrial filters in the recycling plant when they burst through the door of their cramped habitation pod. Her own violet skin bore the permanent stains of chemical exposure, her hands cracked from years of menial labor. "Slow down," she laughed, catching Nix as he collided with her legs. "What has you so excited?" The boys tumbled over each other to explain their windfall, credit spilling across their makeshift table like scattered stars. Liana's expression grew serious as she listened. "Humans don't give without wanting something back," she warned, gathering the credits with practiced caution. "This kindness, it always has a price. Mark my words, boys. Nothing good comes from dealing with them." Her voice carried the weight of old wounds, memories of exploitation and broken promises that had driven her people to the colony's outer edges. The boys protested, their voices overlapping in youthful indignation. "He was different, Mother," Zeph insisted. "He looked at us like we mattered." Kale nodded vigorously, while Nix simply smiled, still clutching one of the credit chips. Liana sighed, pulling her children close. She had seen too much to share their optimism, but couldn't bring herself to crush their first taste of hope in months. That night, as the artificial stars of the colony's dome flickered overhead, the family settled into their usual sleeping arrangements. The boys shared a single cot while Liana took the floor, her body accustomed to discomfort. But sleep was elusive. Strange lights pulsed outside their window, growing brighter as the hours passed. By dawn, the lights had arranged themselves into a perfect perimeter around their housing block. The knock came at sunrise, sharp and official. Through their thin walls, they could hear boots on metal grating, the distinctive whir of military equipment powering up. Liana's face went pale as she peered through their single grimy window. Soldiers in full combat gear surrounded their building, their weapons at ready position. "They've come for you," she breathed, pulling her sons away from the door. Whatever that human wanted, whatever price he's collecting, the entry chime cut her off, followed by a voice that brooked no argument. "This is Colonial Command. Open the door immediately." Zeph stepped forward, his small frame trembling but resolute. "Let me face them, Mother. If this is about yesterday." The door slid open before he could finish. A squad of human soldiers filed in, their armor gleaming with embedded technology. But it was the figure behind them that made Liana's breath catch. The kind-faced man from the starport stood in her doorway, no longer dressed in civilian robes, but wearing the insignia of a colonial commander. His weathered features held the same gentle expression, but now it was backed by undeniable authority. "My name is Commander Marcus Vale," he said, removing his command helmet in a gesture of respect. "I've come to thank your sons." The words hung in the air like an impossible dream. Liana staggered backward, her mind struggling to process what she was seeing. This powerful human, surrounded by enough firepower to level their entire district, had come to express gratitude. The boys pressed close to their mother, confused but unafraid. Commander Vale knelt slowly, bringing himself to their eye level, a gesture that sent ripples of shock through the gathering crowd of neighbors. "Yesterday, you three carried more than my luggage. You carried yourselves with dignity when others expected you to fail. You worked as a team when you could have fought over scraps. You showed me something I'd been searching for across a dozen worlds." His voice carried through the thin walls, drawing more residents from their pods. The narrow corridor filled with Liana's people, laborers, service workers, the forgotten citizens who kept the colony running while living in its shadows. They pressed close, straining to hear words that defied everything they thought they knew about human-alien relations. "I've been traveling incognito for months," Vale continued, "looking for communities that still understood honor, respect, the willingness to help a stranger without expecting reward." Liana found her voice at last, though it came out as barely a whisper. You were testing us." The accusation carried years of hurt, decades of exploitation disguised as opportunity. But Vale shook his head, his expression earnest. "Not testing. Hoping my people have a saying. Character is revealed, not in great moments, but in small ones when no one is watching. Your sons revealed more character in 10 minutes than most soldiers show in their entire careers." The crowd murmured, a mix of disbelief and dawning comprehension. Old Qatar, who ran the district's only food vendor, pushed forward. "What do you want from us, human? Our children for your wars. Our labor for your projects." His mandibles clicked with suspicion, echoing the thoughts of many. Vale stood slowly, his presence commanding without being threatening. "I want to offer your people something unprecedented: partnership." A younger voice cut through the tension. Kale, the middle son, stepped forward, despite his mother's restraining hand. "You carried our credits yesterday," he said, his standard clearer than his brother's. "Today, you carry respect for our people. Maybe humans aren't all the same." His simple words carried profound impact, and several adults nodded grudgingly. Vale smiled, the expression transforming his austere features. "Wisdom from the mouths of children. Yes, young one. Humans aren't all the same, and neither are any species. But yesterday proved that some values transcend species entirely." Nix tugged at his mother's worn tunic, whispering loudly, "Is he the good human, Mama?" The innocent question broke the remaining tension, drawing chuckles, even from the most suspicious observers. Liana looked down at her youngest, then back at the commander, who had appended her worldview in the span of minutes. I think he might be, little one." The admission cost her years of protective cynicism crumbling under the weight of unexpected hope. Commander Vale activated a holographic display from his wrist unit, showing images of gleaming academies and diverse student bodies. "The Galactic Defense Initiative is expanding," he announced to the growing crowd. "Not to conquer or exploit, but to bring together the best from every world. We need engineers, pilots, tacticians, leaders, and we need them from communities that understand struggle, cooperation, and earned respect." The hologram shifted to show young beings of dozens of species working side by side, their uniforms bearing no distinction of origin or social class. Liana watched her son's eyes widen with wonder, seeing possibilities she had never dared imagine. "You're offering them ... education?" she asked, the word foreign on her tongue. "More than that," Vale replied. "I'm offering them the chance to build bridges between worlds, to prove that strength comes not from domination, but from lifting others up." The crowd buzzed with conversation as families huddled in hurried conferences. But before anyone could respond, a new commotion arose from the district's main thoroughfare. Angry voices echoed off metal walls, growing closer. Through the crowd pushed a group of alien hardliners, outer ring residents, who had embraced resentment as their governing philosophy. Their leader, a scarred Thakari named Voss, shouldered past the soldiers with practiced aggression. "So the humans have come to steal our children, after all," he snarled, his forearms gesturing dismissively at Vale's display. "Dressed up in pretty promises, but theft nonetheless." Several families backed away, old fears resurfacing. Voss continued his tirade, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had channeled communal anger into personal power. "They offer education in how to betray your own kind. They promise partnership, where we do the dying while they reap the rewards." His supporters nodded, some reaching for improvised weapons. The human soldiers tensed, hands moving toward sidearms. But Vale raised a calming gesture. "I understand your suspicion," the commander said calmly. "Your people have been deceived before. But I'm not asking you to trust me. I'm asking you to trust them." He gestured toward the three boys, who stood protectively near their mother. Yesterday, these children made a choice. They chose to help someone who needed it, expecting nothing in return. That choice revealed their character, and it revealed something about human character too. "We recognize strength when we see it." Zeph stepped forward, his young voice cutting through the tension. "Mr. Voss, my brothers and I, we just helped carry some bags. But this human, he sees that as important. Maybe that means humans see things differently than we thought." His words carried the simplicity of childhood wisdom, unencumbered by adult prejudices. Kale joined him, adding, "And if they want to teach us to fly ships and build things, isn't that better than scrubbing recyclers forever?" Voss's expression twisted with frustration. These children were undermining months of carefully cultivated resentment with their naive hopefulness. But before he could respond, little Nix delivered the final blow to his argument. "Yesterday we carried bags," the youngest said solemnly. "Today we carry dreams. Tomorrow, maybe we carry stars." The poetic words, spoken in his high, clear voice, sent a shiver through the gathered crowd. Commander Vale knelt again, this time addressing all three boys directly. "There's something else you should know," he said quietly, though his words carried to every listening ear. "In human history, our greatest achievements came not from conquest, but from unexpected alliances. When 3 alien children carried a stranger's burden yesterday, they carried the weight of 2 worlds into the future. They showed that cooperation transcends fear, that dignity exists in every species, and that the smallest acts of kindness can reshape destinies." Liana felt tears streaming down her face, the first she had shed since her husband's death in the mining accident 3 years ago. She had spent so long protecting her children from disappointment that she had forgotten how to let them reach for the stars. Now, watching this powerful human speak of her sons as if they were heroes instead of refugees, she realized that protection sometimes meant letting go. The crowd had grown silent, each family wrestling with possibilities that had seemed impossible an hour before. Finally, old Kaitar stepped forward, his weathered features thoughtful. "Commander," he said slowly, "if you're truly offering partnership, instead of servitude, then prove it. Stay among us. Let us see how humans treat allies instead of subjects." Vale nodded gravely. "I'll do better than that. I'll establish a permanent liaison office here, staffed by humans and aliens working together. Every family will have direct access to educational opportunities, job training, and cultural exchange programs." The transformation was remarkable. Anger was giving way to curiosity, suspicion to cautious optimism. Even some of Voss's supporters were asking quiet questions about application procedures and admission requirements. The 3 boys at the center of it all stood hand in hand, their mother behind them with tears of pride and terror flowing freely. As the crowd began to disperse, families returning to their pods to discuss this unprecedented opportunity, Vale approached Liana directly. "Your sons have given me something priceless," he said softly. "They've shown me that the values we humans prize, courage, loyalty, compassion, exists everywhere, just waiting for recognition. Would you allow me to give them something in return?" Liana looked at her boys, saw the hope blazing in their large eyes, and finally understood that love sometimes meant taking impossible leaps of faith. 3 months later, at the new Kepler spaceport, where their story began, 3 small figures stood at the boarding ramp of a gleaming transport ship. Their new uniforms bore the insignia of the Galactic Defense Initiative, but more importantly, They bore the confidence of children who had discovered their own worth. Lyanna embraced each son, whispering blessings and promises to right every day. Commander Vale appeared beside them, no longer in disguise but wearing his full-dress uniform for this ceremonial departure. "They'll be back for holidays," he assured the weeping mother. "And when they graduate, they'll return as ambassadors between our peoples." Lyanna nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. As the boys climbed a ramp, Zeph turned back one final time. "Mother," he called, his voice carrying across the noise of the busy port. "We carried bags yesterday, but today we carry hope for everyone." The other passengers, humans and aliens, alike paused to watch the small figures disappear into the ship. As the transport lifted off, carrying dreams and possibilities, toward distant stars, Commander Vale spoke softly to the crowd of well-wishers. "This is why humanity thrives," he murmured, his words carried by the wind to every listening ear. "We see strength not in domination, but in those willing to lift what others ignore." When 3 children chose kindness over cynicism, they changed not just their own destiny, they changed the destiny of 2 worlds. The ship's engines roared to life, carrying its precious cargo toward a future where species boundaries mattered less than shared values, where 3 alien boys who once carried bags would someday carry the hopes of the galaxy itself. In the years that followed, as the Outer Ring districts transformed into thriving communities of interspecies cooperation, people would remember this day. They would tell their own children about the time when 3 small aliens taught powerful humans the meaning of dignity, and how that lesson rippled outward to touch every corner of the galaxy. It became known as the Bag Carriers. Legusha reminded that the greatest victories often begin with the smallest acts of unexpected kindness.